Joining us on the line now is Sofie Hagen. Sofie is bringing her brand new tour, Dead Baby Frog, to the Warwick Arts Centre on the 14th of October. Sofie, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. No one ever asks me, so I'm good, thank you.
I've learned the British way, and you always have to ask back.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you're bringing your tour, Dead Baby Frog, to the Warwick Arts Centre. What is this tour about, Dead Baby Frog?
It's a show about, basically, I was raised by a narcissistic, psychopathic grandfather in a town called Shametown. And in November last year, I went to confront him. So that's what the show's about.
And do we find out how that ended then?
Yes, you do find out in the show, yes.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. It's a 30-day tour. Obviously, you're doing a lot in the UK and also over in Denmark. Just a kind of general question. What are the audiences like in England compared to Denmark? Because obviously you're originally from Denmark, but are the British audiences more polite or are they more kind of annoying? I don't really know.
I think like British audiences are... You just know what comedy is. Like in Denmark, stand-up is still quite new. So when you do a show in Denmark, about half the audience won't have seen stand-up before.
Oh, really?
So you kind of have to convince them that the genre is funny. Where in the UK, you know your stuff. You have some of the greats here, so you don't have to first convince you that that stand-up can be funny.
You talk about quite taboo subjects, like you talk about weight a lot, you talk about feminism a lot. If stand-up comedy is kind of quite new to Denmark, then your material there, I mean, is it quite... They kind of don't expect it.
Yeah, that's the reason I moved. It's beginning slowly to happen in Denmark. People are starting to talk more and more about the kind of personal stories. But, I mean, we're still at the level where there's a lot of talk about plain food and, kind of 80s offensive comedy topics.
Right.
So I'm so grateful that I found a scene where I can talk about dark stuff and personal and political stuff.
And why did you decide to come to the UK then? Because obviously you've done Edinburgh Comedy Festival, you've done quite a few things. I think you came in 2012 to England. What was the main reason behind that? Why England in particular?
Well, I came to England because I wanted to... I went on holiday to see a bunch of musicals, and then I ended up staying because I got myself into this situation where I was at my hotel and I thought, I wonder how like a British... a flat looks like from the inside. So I kind of snuck my way into a viewing of a flat and felt like this mastermind. I was like, haha, they don't even know that I'm not going to move here. And then at the end they said, so it's yours if you want it. And I said, okay. And I signed the papers and I thought, oh no. And I had to call my mom and say that I'd moved to the UK.
Oh my goodness. So that was completely random then? Very,
very random. The most impulsive thing I've ever done. But there was something about getting to perform, because in the UK you can perform 3 times a night, every single night of the week. In Denmark, there's like twice a week you can get on stage because there's so little comedy. So I just found this amazing place where I could just become a better comedian because there's so much comedy to do here.
And then after you signed the paper for the flat, I mean, how quickly did the first gig come along?
Oh, I'd day one. I went straight from the airport to a gig. Yeah, I'd already booked in. It was like a little holiday of watching musicals during the day, and then in the evening I would go and do these silly little open mics in basements all around London. So I would gig every single night till now, because it's my favorite thing to do.
And I've got to ask, what musicals did you go and see?
I saw Les Mis, I saw Phantom and Wicked and Blood Brothers.
I'm jealous. I've only seen one of them. I've only seen Blood Brothers.
Oh, that was so good, wasn't it?
It's very good. I'm a big fan of that one.
Yeah.
So moving on to Edinburgh Comedy Festival, obviously one of the heights of where you can kind of reach in UK comedy. What is it like being an act at the Edinburgh Comedy Festival?
I feel like it's the closest I get to being in Denmark in terms of the community, because in Denmark we were all friends, all the comedians were friends, and after every single gig we would all go out and have a drink and just hang out and talk about jokes and stuff. And in London it's a bit different because people have to make the last tube and there's just too many people. But Edinburgh is this place where we're just all in it together and we're all hanging out and we all get to watch each other and support each other, and it's an amazing thing to to be in a place where you see all your friends being their very best. It's just this lovely haven, I think.
I've got to be honest, I've never been, but I do really, really want to go to the Edinburgh Comedy Festival.
Oh, you have to go. You have to go. It's the best, yeah.
I'll definitely go. Now, Sofie, sorry to lower the tone, but I've got a bit of a bone to pick with you, because I saw that before this interview on Twitter, you tweeted something about some of the, I think you had 7 consecutive interviews, and I've got a few more questions to ask. So before we go into that, have you been?
No, I haven't. I do realize now, after a few interviews, that people do check my Twitter. So I've had to apologize to quite a few people. And now I can't even... You're going to be very aware now of echoes and stuff, so I don't think I can.
Just thought I'd check that one.
Yeah, of course. Don't worry, I'll let you know.
So obviously I mentioned earlier about the taboo subjects you talk about. Feminism and weight are 2 that come up that I've heard you speak about quite a lot. What is the reception like when you talk about those subjects? Because obviously it would differ depending on kind of the audience that you're speaking to. But do you ever find that some nights there's a negative reaction to talking about stuff like that?
I think everyone in the world loves feminism. No. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite lucky that I'm mostly performing to my audience, and that's exactly what my audience loves, because it's my audience. But I do sometimes, you go on stage in front of, like a lot of stag and hen dudes at a comedy club, and I remember doing my first fat positive joke in Denmark, and the setup to the punchline was me saying, "Hey, I love my body," and then there's a punchline at the end of that, but I didn't. I just said, "I love my body," and they all erupted. Oh, that wasn't the joke, though. Yeah.
But why does that get that kind of reaction, do you think?
Oh, because people, the society hates fat people. People are not used to hearing, society hates a lot of people. Like, we live in a time of systematic oppression of fat people, of women, of people of color, trans people, homosexual people. We just live in a kind of a horrible time. So people are not used, and a lot of stand-up is still a bit backward in that sense. Like, I know there are a lot of fat people who don't go to comedy nights because they know that there's going to be jokes about, I only just really realized it when a lot of fat people messaged me and said that they'd never gone to a comedy night before they came to my gig because they were scared of being picked on or hearing, the comedian do jokes about how fat people are lazy or stupid or whatever. And I get it. I really understand that, because I go to, obviously, a lot of comedy, and I hear a lot of jokes about fat people. So I think, you do usually get the negative reaction because people are not used to hearing... people are barely used to hearing a woman speak, and it's 2017, so to hear one speak about feminism and mental health and fat activism it's a long one, isn't it?
Because you've spoken about feminism, and even stand-up comedy in Denmark are concepts that are kind of just getting going. And in England, it's been going for a while, but there still aren't many female comedians, really, or many ones that get the media attention. Yeah,
it's a hard one. There are a lot, but of course not as many as there are men. And then when you look at the female comedians who get the attention, very few of them, are women of color, for example, or trans women. So it gets harder and harder the more kind of boxes you fit into that society doesn't like.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a few questions now, Sofie, just to get to know you a little bit better. Some quick-fire questions, if that's okay. So first question, England, what is your favourite thing about the English?
Oh, I like that they leave you alone on the tube.
Oh, really? What's your least favourite thing about the English? Do they have any annoying habits or traits?
The politeness, I don't know the rules. I don't know the proper rules of when to say, "How are you? I'm well. How are you? No, I'm good. How are you, though? How's the weather?" Like, I can't do that.
If there was a sports match between England and Denmark, well, obviously there's been sports games between England and Denmark, but if there was one, who would you support, England or Denmark?
Oh, God.
Sorry to put you in this.
I wouldn't watch it, but I think I would. It depends where I was. If I was in Denmark, I'd support Denmark, and if I was in the UK, I'd support the UK.
That's a good answer. What is your favourite TV show?
Ooh, oh, God.
Is there anything you're binge-watching at the minute?
I'm binge-watching The Office, but the US version, I'm afraid.
The US?
Yeah, sorry.
Fair enough. What's your favourite food?
Danish food. Smørrebrød.
What's your most embarrassing moment at a comedy gig?
Oh, God. Oh no, there's too many. I once realized that a guy who broke my heart was sitting in the front row with his entire family.
Oh my goodness.
And so I decided to tell the entire audience what had happened, and at the end I reached out the microphone to him and said, "Why couldn't you love me?"
And was this in England or Denmark?
This is Denmark.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say after that. What's your best achievement, would you say, in comedy? Obviously, we spoke about the Edinburgh Fringe earlier. Would you say that's kind of your best achievement in comedy, or what would you say personally?
Oh, God, I think being able to put on the tour that I'm going on now, which I managed to make sure that all the venues were anxiety safe, had gender neutral toilets and disabled access.
Oh, really?
And I still have about 30, 40 dates. I think that's probably the thing that I'm the most proud of.
And finally, do you have any favourite comedians or inspirations that kind of got you into stand-up comedy?
Oh, I was a massive fan of Ellen DeGeneres when I started out. Ellen DeGeneres was just this incredibly funny, powerful woman, but someone who kind of changed the way I look at how I do comedy is someone like Mark Watson.
Oh, really?
The way he manages to interact with his audience, both on and off stage, is something that I still aspire to.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Sofie, for joining us. Remember, you can go and see Sofie Hagen at the Warwick Arts Centre on the 14th of October with her new tour, Dead Baby Frog. Thanks for joining us, Sofie.
Thank you so much. My name is Sofie Hagen, and you're listening to Raw.